Ladies and gentlemen, it is your boy Cool McCain. As you can see, I'm riding solo on this episode, PlayCallers Sports Talk Show. But that's okay, because there's so many things that are happening in the world of professional sports as well as collegiate athletics, especially football. But there's plenty for us to discuss tonight. So we won't have any issue with covering all these topics and maybe even a couple of bonus topics. Who knows? But if it's your first time watching, or if you just haven't watched for a while, all you just need to remember. Tell you who we are real quick. A part of being live interactive talk is getting an interaction from the peoples in the chat, my fam. But it's okay. I know it's a busy night. A lot of things happening. We're preparing for the first regular season game of football. Well, regular season weekend of football, excuse me, because we already had the first game. And we're definitely going to discuss that because it's the only thing we have right now, right? As far as, we'll time permitting, we'll get picks on the NFL schedule as well for this week. But there's only one place that makes a lot of sense to start, and that's with some contracts. So we got Mr. Nick Bosa agreed to a 5-year, $170 million contract that includes 122.5 million in guarantees, highest paid non-quarterback in history. And just to make sure you hear this correctly, 5-year, $170 million contract, but the kicker, 122.5 guaranteed. So he's going to receive 122.5 guaranteed if he's on the field for 5 years with the San Francisco 49ers. I said this on the radio show, and I'll say it here as well. I'm always for players getting the bag. I'm always for that. When guys go out, they perform, they do what they're supposed to do on the field, they show you their value. Time comes for pay. Hey, it's a very simple thing. Give them what they deserve. So that's what we got happening here with Joey Bosa. With Nick Bosa, thinking of his brother for a moment. So he's paid, so that means other defensive ends, defensive, tackles, those guys who feel that they have the same level of importance to their organizations, or other defensive players who feel they have the same importance to their organizations, are now going to be looking at this and saying, but it got paid. I'm coming for that pay, because we all know the sad thing for owners, great for players, families, and everything. But the sad thing for owners is once this happens, you don't go backwards. Right. The next guy that's at defensive end, Chris Jones, isn't going to take a lot less. It's going to have to be somewhere in that same ballpark, or he's not going to sign the deal. Right. So it's fun from a perspective of just seeing, man, how great guys are getting paid now. And I'm all for guys getting paid, always have been. I mean, if the organization wants to get rid of you, they get rid of you with no problem. So at the time that they need to pay you, they should pay you with no problem. That's always been my stance. It always will be my stance, whether it's somebody from this team or somebody from another team. Get your funds, man. Kudos to you for doing that, man. I know you're excited. I know Chris Jones is probably one of the first people to reach out to you and say, hey, man, appreciate you. It's going to make it a lot easier for me. So, I mean, truth be told, whenever Jones does report and this gets cleared up, he's not going to pay those fines, right? He's really not going to pay those fines. They're going to figure that out. This always happens when you have a guy of his caliber that holds out. Now, another thing about the whole Bosa situation that I saw that's a little interesting is they're still working on if he will be able to play this week because of how late he signed, physicals and getting everything together. He still may not be eligible to play this Sunday. If he's not, him being in a fold, everything being straightened out, I think they'll still be fine as far as, that goes, but could affect this particular game that they're going to play Sunday. But time permitting, we'll get to that later on. So another signing that we had that happened right before the Thursday night game, I do believe, is we had Joe Burrow's contract. So Burrow got a $275 million extension with $219.1 million guaranteed. He's the highest paid QB per season in the league now. And this is just going to continue to go up and go up and go up, right? We could sit here and talk about, how much he's going to make every year and all those intricate details. But the important part is highest paid quarterback. We just had that happen with Justin Herbert. Before Justin Herbert, we just had that happen with Lamar Jackson. Before Lamar Jackson, we just had that happen with Jalen Hurts. The next quarterback who's going to get paid is going to be the same thing. These numbers are going to continue to rise. We talk all the time when a quarterback signs a contract, Mahomes' contract, and how crazy that was when he signed it. But you have to understand, quarterbacks are what drives the league. So even guys that may not have the same level of skill as a Joe Burrow, right, or Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes or those guys, you're going to get paid because of the position you pay. You're going to get a position premium. It is what it is. It's part of the game, right? And people need to realize that. It's going to happen. So every week, every time we see a quarterback get paid, it's going to be going up. That's just the way it's going to be. It's always going to be one more. It's always going to be another guy that needs to get paid, and they're always going to get paid more than the last guy. That is the only thing that honestly makes sense, right? Because why would I sign a contract and if this guy has been paid? Why would I sign a contract for less than that? Doesn't make a lot of sense. I wouldn't do it. I'm sure none of you watching would do it as well. So it doesn't make any sense. So why do it, right? So, so much happening in the world of sports. I mean, the world of sports is crazy, right? So we're going to move on here to top 25 schedule. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go over the games for this past week. But there's obviously a couple of games that need to at least be mentioned from last week. So we're going to start, of course, with I said before the game, and, unfortunately for one team, it didn't quite prove to be true. But the matchup of the week, Florida State and LSU. You've seen the details. I'm sure you've had several places. A lot of you probably watched the game. But what I would like to say about that game is simply Florida State came out and looked like Florida State that we expected. LSU came out. I don't know what happened. I don't know if they weren't prepared properly. I don't know if they had convinced themselves there was going to be an easy game. I don't know what happened. But it's kind of like they didn't completely realize they had a game. It's like that never happened throughout the entirety of that game. And that's why we got the game that we got, right? And then we look at Duke and Clemson. Clemson is lucky to still be in the top 25 after that Yassa whooping that they took. Craziness. But they really got handled by Duke. Duke is not a team that's known for handling quote-unquote powerhouses within college football. Basketball, different story, but football, not necessarily. But hey, kudos to Duke. They ran the ball. They pounded the ball. They did what needed to be done to get by Clemson. And there's a lot of a lot of innuendos last year that DJU was the problem. DJU's not there, and you're still having issues. We know Dabo doesn't like the transfer portal, right? So you're losing talent, but you're not saying there's guys out there that could fill some of those roles that maybe other guys are not ready for or that are better. So those teams like Alabama, Clemson that are not embracing the transfer portal, it's hurting because other teams are, so they're getting better. And the talent level is not as robust, right? You don't have these teams that have all these really great players and these teams that just don't have a lot. You see the other teams start to get guys because you can groom guys, you can bring in guys, you're comfortable with doing that. It helps you rework your roster once you see weaknesses and you don't necessarily have to wait for other guys to develop. In the past in college football, for those of you who may not remember or just didn't watch it in detail, there was a point before this where, hey, guys pretty much stayed where they were at, or if they did transfer, they had to sit out a year, right? So you still had to have other guys in place, even if you brought somebody in the transfer portal, unless you brought somebody in a year before you really needed it, which is kind of hard to do, right? So this has allowed guys to have that opportunity to say, hey, I'm here. I don't want to be here. I can go somewhere else. The only time you had that in the past was guys that graduated and still had eligibility. So, say a guy got through school in 3 years, had another year of eligibility left, and he transferred or he redshirted a year, so he still had a year of eligibility to play, and then he graduated. Then they had the ability to, kind of move where they wanted to, but not guys that were not at that point yet. So we're getting that a lot more now. That's interesting to me. That's something that kind of levels the playing field, I feel like, and we're starting to see that somewhat. You have some teams that are just still kind of a little bit above everybody else, but those gaps are closing. In a couple of years, those gaps may not hardly be noticeable. So, very interesting. And then, of course, the game is going to be talked about for a long time. TCU and Colorado. So Colorado goes to TCU and they beat them. It's a close game, right? It's a close game. It's not no one destroyed the other team. Good close game. They won by 3. But what Colorado did was show that they know how to play. Shedeur Sanders had a great game. You've heard his stats. For me, if you've listened to the radio show, if not, I'm sure you heard them several places. I know all the big 3 and 4 letter networks have been really giving you a lot of content in regards to Colorado, mainly Coach Prime, but some about the team as well. I would like to say they have really good corner play from what I saw this week, and I can only judge on what I've seen so far. It was a game that I actually sat down and watched the entirety of the game because I was very curious to see how those guys came out under Coach Prime after what he's been saying, and also what a lot of the media was saying about this team prior to that. So what we got from Colorado was a team that did not shrink in the moment. We got a team that was up, tied the game, down at one point, but they did not allow anything to stop them from continuing to play the way they wanted to play. I also like to shout out Shedeur Sanders because he could have had a lot more yards. He put some balls where they could only be caught by the player that it was designed for. No one, and the player wasn't able to make the play. Maybe bounce off the hands. Maybe they didn't run through it enough. But his placement is spectacular from that game. And that is something that I did see at Jackson State with him as well. So this is not something new. I mean, when Deion Sanders is your dad, and I'm sure the kind of people he rubs shoulders with, it's not hard to say, hey, I got a kid, he's playing quarterback. Can you give him some, pointers? Can work him out a little bit? Maybe help him with footwork, vision, different things like that. You use the resources that you have to become better, and I'm sure that that's happened in the Sanders household. And then Shiloh, cornerback, 9 solo tackles, 1 assisted tackle, 10 tackles in all. Was really around the ball a lot of deflections. He was a guy that stood his ground, played really well, I thought, at the corner from a guy that, only had played cornerback before at the HBCU level, was able to translate. A lot of new players on this Colorado team. A lot of people had questions about the team gelling, and those are fair questions, right? If you have a team that's full of new people, you do have questions about the team gelling. And Billy V says Colorado was a 20-point underdog. Oh, I was definitely getting to that part, Billy. You are correct. So essentially what's crazy about it is 20-point underdog, you win by 3 points. So Vegas and the odd makers told you that you were so bad you were going to lose by 20 points, and you win the game. You could check this show last week. I said I felt like Colorado had a good chance to win, but even if they didn't, the biggest thing for me was them showing that they could hang, them showing that they could stick in the game, them showing that they were not, the moment was not too big for them. They were not scared of who they were playing or what they were playing. And we saw that, right? We saw a team that came out and just played football. They weren't worried about, who was here, who's on the other side, the names, any of that. Shedeur even said in an interview that basically the main differences to him was the defensive line gets at you a lot faster. There's more of the top players, but you also have more of the top players on your team. So, the windows are a little bit tighter. Decision making is a little bit quicker, which these are all things that make sense. But he was never scared. No disrespect to TCU or anyone else that they play, but he's not scared of the moment. He's okay with being in the moment. And that's what you like to hear. And he goes out, has a great game, no interceptions. Love it. Travis Hunter, what can we say about him? Really great on both sides of the ball, touchdown and over 100 yards receiving. Interception and over 100 yards receiving. So, that team played really well. But There are a lot of people that are crowning Colorado too early. I said Colorado was about a 6 to 7 win team. I'm still going to stick to that, but I'm also going to say that they can make a lot of games interesting that people felt like were going to be more of these 20-point blowouts or more. Now, the other question that I would still ask on Colorado is how do they handle this now, right? Because now they're not the underdog that no one believes in. They're the ranked team now. They're a team where people are saying, if we can go and knock them out, we can improve our standing in college football. So how do they handle being? I mean, you're still lowly ranked, but you're ranked. So how do you handle being a little bit more the hunter, the hunted versus the hunter? So that'll be interesting for us to see, and it'll be something that we'll be looking forward to for this team throughout the season. But I think Coach Prime has the right mindset. Very boisterous, letting everybody know he has his receipts. But what it does is it energizes your players, whatever way you do it. Like we've had guys come out before and say, "I'm the coach, I'm the man." Their kids, we've had guys come out and protect their kids when things happen bad. We've had guys come out and give their kids all the praise when things happen well. So that energizes those guys because they say, "I'll play for Coach Prime." Coach Prime is out here letting the world know I believe in these guys. I don't know if they did or not, but I always believed, and we're gonna go out here and do something special. And to me, that still could be 6 or 7 wins, but you're showing that you belong. The thing is, Colorado was 1-11 last year. So they've already matched the win total from the entirety of last season after one game. Only up for here for Coach Prime. Love to see it. I'm excited about what Colorado's going to do moving forward. I definitely will be keeping an eye on them, even though I am a Miami Hurricanes fan. I will be Colorado will be kind of like my second team because I like what they're doing. And I think it's something that can be continued long term because you have a guy like Coach Prime that just kids gravitate toward him. And also, if you haven't noticed, Travis Etienne said that maybe his brother, who plays for Florida, might need to go play for Coach Prime. So you even have guys in the NFL looking and saying, "Oh man, Coach Prime is getting it with those boys. Maybe my brother should go over there." And you do have that one time that you could transfer without any penalty. So I do foresee whatever talent Coach Prime loses, him having opportunities to get that talent back. That's called a pipeline, guys. What that is that allows a coach to have open lines to pull kids to the university. That's the biggest thing that Coach Prime is going to bring to Colorado. That's going to bring some excitement. Their impending move to another conference. That's going to make it even better. So just excited for the university, excited for Deion Sanders, Coach Sanders, Coach Prime. Excited for his sons and the other players on that team and those guys just getting that monkey out there back early and showing people, hey, we're here and we're going to stay here. So very excited for me, man. I was hyped up watching that game. I love to see the underdog. I love that when the underdog kind of shows like, yo, just because you didn't think this or believe this about us doesn't mean that we couldn't do it. So yeah, big shout out for that. Very pumped about it. So we'll hop here into our top 25 matchups for week 2. A lot of these are going to be pretty easy, right? A lot of these are going to be cupcakes. There'll be some that'll be a little bit more interesting than others, but a lot of these are going to be cupcakes. So we got Georgia, Ball State. Clearly, Georgia's going to win that game. Michigan, UNLV. I don't foresee UNLV beating Michigan. Alabama versus Texas. So I'm going to go Alabama in this game, but I'm going to go Alabama with a close victory over a much improved and much more game Texas team. So I think we're going to see Texas kind of show, hey, we're coming. We're not just, here to be here. We're number 11 for a reason. I think they're going to give Alabama quite the run for their money. Florida State has a bunny game this week against Southern Miss as number 4. Number 5, Ohio State versus Youngstown State. Those are both wins for Florida State and Ohio State. USC versus Stanford. This could be the last game in a long rivalry, as we do know those two schools are going to be in different conferences next year. I'm going to go USC because I just think that they are better prepared to win this game. But again, I believe Stanford could at least stay within a reasonable score with USC. All right, so we got number 7, Penn State against Delaware. Clearly, that's going to be Penn State. We've got number 8, Washington against Tulsa. Washington, of course. Tennessee against Austin Peay. We're going Tennessee. Number 10, Notre Dame at NC State. So this is upset alert for me. NC State plays you really well at home. NC State is a dog. They're hard out. They're that team that you just like. If I don't have to play them, I'm fine. I know if I have to, I have to. But this is a game I would say put on upset alert. I won't go as far as picking NC State, but I will say I would not be surprised if they do pull an upset. But I will go with Notre Dame. But this is a prove it game for Notre Dame. This is a game for Notre Dame to kind of really show us who they are. They get behind, they get beat up a little bit. Are they still going to be the same Notre Dame and come out on top? Or is there going to be enough to negate some of what they do? So we will see that on Saturday. All right, and then we got number 12, Utah at Baylor. Definitely going to go Utah in that one. We've got Oregon at Texas Tech. I think Oregon's a really strong team. I think Oregon's a team that's going to make some noise, not necessarily make the playoff, but make some noise and at least be in that conversation. So saying that, definitely going Oregon. We got number 14 now, LSU versus Grambling. Definitely LSU, you better not lose this game, right? You just better not lose this game. We've got number 15, Kansas State versus Troy. Definitely going to go Kansas State. They should handle that pretty easily. We've got Oregon State versus UC Davis. Definitely going Oregon State. Then we have number 17, Carolina, UNC, North Carolina versus Appalachian State. This is another upset alert game. Appalachian State is a very doggone good football team. They play with the big boys. They've upset big boys before, and they play no games. This is a Carolina rivalry. So this should be a really good game. This is an upset alert. I'm even going to go to the point in this one that, hey, a lot of times this bites me, but it is what it is. I'm going to go Appalachian State in a close victory, probably 3 points or 4 points over North Carolina. All right, then number 18, Oklahoma versus SMU. SMU may be coming to the ACC next year, but they're not going to win this game. All right, and then we've got number 19, Wisconsin at Washington State. This would be upset alert for me because I think Washington State is really good. Wisconsin should be able to pull out the win, but I'm going to go upset alert, but not a clear upset on this one. All right, then we have number 20 Ole Miss versus number 24 Tulane. All right, and then we haven't got to NFL yet, but we're going to go ahead and say this. So Dylan says, Lions NFC champs coming, be wary, Philly. One game does not make an NFC champ. So good win for the Lions. Great win, but I think it's a little premature. We haven't seen the Eagles, the 49ers, or the Cowboys even take the field yet, and we're already naming the Lions champs. All I'm going to say about that. We'll come back to that later for sure. All right, so let's get back over here to this. So we have Ole Miss versus Tulane. This is a top 25 matchup, 20 versus 24. I'm going to go Ole Miss. I feel comfortable with Ole Miss. The thing is, I don't think it would be too much of an upset if 24 Tulane beats 20 Ole Miss. I'm going to go slightly Ole Miss on this one, but Tulane could surprise. All right, we have number 21 Duke versus Lafayette. We're clearly going to go Duke on this, even though there may be a letdown after that big win last week. We're still going to go Duke on this one. All right, then we have number 22 Colorado versus Nebraska. Close game. I think Colorado pulls out another one close, giving people that understanding that, hey, we're here to win and we can win close games. So, yeah, definitely going to ride with Colorado. My upset pick of the week, we've got number 23 Texas A&M. They are ranked, so this would be considered an upset versus Miami, Florida Miami. I'm going to have Miami beating Texas A&M because I feel like the coaching is better. I feel like the talent gap is minimal. And Miami's due for a big win, and this would be a good one for them. So let's hope that they can get it done for my sake and for my fan base, the Hurricanes' sake, because I don't think they can take another Miami beats a bad team really bad and turns around and loses to a team that they probably are better overall when you take coaching into effect. So get it done, Miami. Find a way to beat Texas A&M. Texas A&M, a lot of talent. They just never have the coaching to put it together. Reminds you of some NFL teams as well. All right, and then we have number 25, Clemson versus Charleston Southern. Clemson's embarrassed. Charleston Southern, I would hate to be you this week. Definitely Clemson is going to be the one to be victorious in this matchup. No doubt about that. All right, so we have covered that. Now we're going to move on and we're going to cover the Kansas City Chiefs game against the Lions, as previously discussed by Dylan. All right, so you watched the game, you saw what happened. Detroit got a score, up 7-0. They let Kansas City get 2 scores in the second quarter, down 7-14 at halftime. Then they came back in the second half and put together 2 touchdowns while holding the Chiefs to 2 field goals. Ended up winning the game 21-20. So I'm first going to give you both quarterback stats, and then we're going to talk about some of the reasons why some of these things happened. Okay. So Jared Goff, 22 of 35, 253 yards and a touchdown. All right, Patrick Mahomes, 21 of 39, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. So I'm going to say this. I'm not going to defend Patrick Mahomes' interception. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not here to make either quarterback bad or good. I'm just here to give you my observations and my thoughts watching this game. First one being, it was pleasant to see the Chiefs struggle. It definitely was pleasant. No doubt about it. You can tell I'm an Eagles fan. Still a little salty, right? I'm getting over it. I'm working through it, but I'm still a little salty. But Mahomes had a lot of balls get dropped. He had a lot of balls get dropped. And that's tough. And then he had to turn around and beat a top rusher on the team. 6 carries for 45 yards. Right? The Lions' top rusher was their running back, David Montgomery, 21 carries, 74 yards for a touchdown. Let's talk about top receivers. Josh Reynolds with 4 receptions for 80 yards. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 2 receptions for 48 yards, was the leading receiver. That tells you everything you need to know. Jahmyr Gibbs, another 7 carries, 42 yards for the Lions. Chiefs running backs. Pacheco had 8 carries for 23 yards. Edwards-Helaire had 6 carries for 22 yards. Sky Moore had a carry for 4. Tony and Rashee Rice both had carries for negative yards. Touchdowns were Rashee Rice and backup tight end Blake Bell. Clearly, and I mean clearly, and we can talk about the defense, and I will not argue that the defense misses Chris Jones one bit. But what I will tell you is Travis Kelce was majorly missed in this game. Rashee Rice had 3 for 29, of course, one of them being a touchdown. Justin Watson had 2 for 45. Isaiah Pacheco had 4 for 31. Noah Gray had 3 for 31. McKinnon had 1 for 10. Edwards-Helaire 1 for 7. Richie James 1 for 6. Justin Ross 1 for 6. Kadarius Toney 1 catch for 1 yards. But if you played Madden, years ago where you had the different cheat codes you could put in, it feels like somebody put the hands of stone cheat code on Kadarius Toney because this guy could not hold on to the ball. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen a guy just not be able to hold on to the ball in major plays. There's a lot of drops on third downs that he had, drops on big plays, and it's just tough to see, right? But we go over here to the Lions. Josh Reynolds the 4 for 80, but then we had Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 for 71 and a touchdown. Sam Laporta 5 for 39. Khalif Raymond 1 for 20. Jahmyr Gibbs 2 receptions for 18 yards. Brock Wright 2 for 17. Marvin Jones 2 for 8, and he had a big fumble. Brian Branch did get an interception, so that was big. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the ex-Eagles player, had a good, solid game. They kind of used him, at least in this game, in a similar role to what he was used in Philadelphia, which allowed him to have some success. I will say just plays being stalled, just guys not making plays. But on the same end, people argue all the time, like, let's just say Kansas City's playing this game and the same thing happens, right? We're not gonna say, the Lions didn't have all their weapons, so blah blah blah. Man, we're not gonna do that. So Billy V says Jamison Williams was sorely missed for the Lions. Oh, he was. And when he returns, he will be going into my lineup because he will be a difference maker. And then Billy V also says no excuses for KC. So listen, I'm gonna tell you this, man. As I was about to say, I'm not here to make excuses for Kansas City. Every guy on that field that played, they strapped on their boots. They were put out there by the coaches. They continue to put Kadarius Toney out there, even though he was dropping everything left and right. That's on the team. That's not on the Lions. That's not their responsibility. They're not supposed to go out there and say, "Oh no, look what's happening. We have to, not play and give them a chance to get back in the game." No, you put your foot on the throat. You do the best that you can, right? So kudos to the Lions. I'm not attempting to take anything away from the Lions. I'm not one of those guys. You go on the field, guys get hurt, guys don't play well, guys are not there. Your job is to have enough scheming, enough other things happening on your team to where it should not make a difference. So, yeah, no excuses over here for that. We're not going to do that over here. I completely agree with you, Billy V. We're not going to do that over here. We're not going to make excuses for anybody. That's point blank. I'm not a fan of that. I don't want to be a part of that, right? Guys, you have to go out there and play. They had guys that should have been able to make catches. If they could not make the catches, again, they should not have been on the field. I mean, it's the only thing I have to say about that. It's the only thing I will say about that. Kudos to the Lions. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You are supposed to go up there and you are supposed to whoop your ass when you have a chance. And that's what you did. So glad to hear that the Lions in the locker room were saying the same old lines. They were hyped up, they were pumped, they were ready to go. They are supposed to be. That is what they are supposed to do. So big ups to them for doing that. Very excited about what I saw. I think Mahomes will be fine when Kelsey gets back. I don't know if he's going to miss 1 week or if it's going to be multiple weeks. But I would say if he's not healthy, let that man sit. Because when he is healthy, he comes back, you're going to need a lot out of him. But while he's unhealthy, if he's not completely healthy, man, just let him sit. If that means you lose a game, you lose a game, but it's better for what you want long term. So, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out for both of these teams. I will say this, and I have several receipts to back it up. I did say that the Lions are going to win their division. I did not expect them to win this game. I'll be the first to admit it, but I did expect them to keep it close. And I did say if you are able to keep a game close in the NFL, you're able to win that game. And I do believe that that's what happened with the Lions. Great win for them. Great win for Jared Goff. A little bit of redemption. And funny stat, 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes. So for some reason, Mahomes always has trouble, not just gets the game, but always when he plays Jared Goff. So excited to see how this season continues to play off. Jamison Williams will return, I believe, week 4. So they just need to hold the boat until then, steer things straight, and they look to be doing that. So, kudos to the Lions. Again, they did exactly what they're supposed to do. They came out and they gave them the business. All right, so we're going to hop over here and do a little WNBA talk here. So everyone knows I'm a Dream fan. Dream won on Wednesday. They've got 2 games left. Right now, they're playing the Mystics. The game is at halftime. I mention that because they have clinched the playoff spot, right? So that means everyone above them at least has clinched the playoff spot as well. The WNBA standards are frozen here on me for a second. I'll get back to them. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So who's clinched? So we'll start at the bottom. So the Washington Mystics have clinched the playoff spot. They are currently the 7th seed. The Atlanta Dream have clinched a playoff spot. They're currently the 6th seed. They're both 18 and 20. The Minnesota Lynx have clinched, and they're currently the 5th seed at 19 and 19, so 1 game ahead with 2 games to play. The Dallas Wings are 2018. They sit in 4th. They've clinched as well with 2 games left to play. The Connecticut Sun have also clinched. They're in 3rd, 26 and 12. And it's funny because the Connecticut Sun seem to have like their own tier. They're a little bit below the Liberty and the Aces, but they seem to be a couple games above everybody else. So the New York Liberty are 32 and 7. They're in 2nd place. They sit a half game out of 1st. And first place, the Las Vegas Aces, 32-6. So they clearly have another game left to play. So right now we're looking at the Aces as the top seed. Still could change slightly. Then you go down to the 8th place seed, right? You have two teams that are in play for the last spot. That's the Chicago Sky and the Los Angeles Sparks. Indiana, Seattle, and Phoenix have all been eliminated from playoff contention. So either the Sky or the Sparks will have the distinct honor of going to Las Vegas or New York and being spanked in the first round, but they can't say they made the playoffs. If you can choose to be a team, you would not want to be 6, 7, or 8th. You'd want to be 4 or 5. Because if you're the 5 seed, you play the 4 seed. So you would play Dallas or Minnesota or Atlanta, depending, or Washington, depending on how things play out. But if you're 7th or 8th, you got the top 2 teams. And if you're 6th, you've got Connecticut. So those would be tough teams to defeat. But at the end of the day, there's one other important point about all this: experience. Teams that, like the Atlanta Dream, that may not have been in the playoffs last year, getting that experience. A team like the Chicago Sky, if they can hang on, or even the Sparks. Those are teams that we were talking about a couple of years ago as teams that can win a championship. Roster turnovers, some different moves, coaches changes, and different things within those organizations. And we're looking at those teams a lot differently now. We're looking at teams under 500, making the playoffs. Right? The Dream to be 500 would need to win tonight and then turn around and win their last game. Just to be 500. So, but there are not many games under 500. That's an important piece too. I always get into this when I'm talking WNBA. I know some people don't want to hear WNBA, but guess what, man? The WNBA needs to have exposure. These women go out and they play a very fundamentally sound game. It is fun to watch, and they just need a chance. If you haven't watched WNBA games, just hop in and watch some. You'll enjoy what you see. So about Jared Goff, JR the third, JR_3 says, yeah, Goff shows up whenever Mahomes is on the other side line. Love that 50-point Monday Night Football shootout they had a few years back. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of great things between these two guys when they're playing against each other in games. I love it. I'm here for it. I like this. There are some guys that just seem to have another guy's number, and it's not necessarily because one quarterback is better than the other. It's just it somehow happens when you have certain guys that it's hard for you to beat them. So it'll be a fun little mini rivalry type thing. I anticipate at some point Mahomes probably beating Goff, but you never know. Hadn't been able to do it so far. But yeah, I always get on expansion with the WNBA. The reason I say that is right now the WNBA has 12 teams. So 8 of those 12 teams always make the playoffs. But there's a lot of cities that, I feel like could support WNBA teams. But what we have is we have a lot of very good female players who don't have an opportunity because there's not enough spots on these rosters. So I'd love for the WNBA to add 2 more teams in expansion. Heck, even 4 would be great, but at least start with 2. And just give some other cities great NBA product, WNBA product. Let's build this league. That it's fun to watch. It's something that's on in that time between when there is no NBA. A lot of the season, football hasn't started yet. So it's something that can be kind of new but familiar as well if you've watched it. Got some differences within the game, Commissioner's Cup and different things, but watch it. I think if you watch it, I think it's something that you would enjoy. I believe most people would enjoy it that really like basketball. Big threes also happen. I'm a Big 3 fan as well. So, off-season basketball still happens. It's kind of like when you don't have the NFL season, but you have the XFL, USFL, arena footballs, different things. It's the same type of situation. You have some other products out there that you can digest to give you that same thing if you're interested. So, something to definitely look into, look forward to, and be a part of. So we are going to move on now to our picks of the week. Got the schedule up here. We're going to go over week 1. Now, I've done this before, but we're going to do it one more time. We're going to go over the schedule. And then if you guys want to add who you think are going to win these games, feel more than free to do so. All right, so we're going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals against the Cleveland Browns. This game is interesting to me because Cincinnati seems to be like the team or one of the teams to beat, right? But Cleveland Browns have Deshaun Watson. And I think last year we saw a shell of Deshaun Watson, the whole situation with him off the court. A lot of people have thoughts one way or another. I'm just going to say for that, it's behind him now. He's went through a suspension, came back. I'm sure he got a lot of jeers, a lot of boos when he played, even by fans of the team he was playing for, and definitely a lot from the fans of the teams he played against. So I think we can get back to football with Deshaun Watson. And that's where things get dangerous. He's had a chance to heal up. He's been out for a few years, but he got his feet wet again last year. He had a whole off-season program. He was able to be there in the preseason, wasn't forced to be away from the team at all, was able to be in the facility, watch tape, do all those things. So I think we're going to get maybe not the same version we got in Houston, but a lot closer to that version than what we got last year. For the Bengals, the question is Joe Burrow going to be healthy? And is that line going to protect him for enough for them to win this game? So for me, and me alone, I'm going to say the Bengals are going to win this game if Joe Burrow is able to be Joe Burrow. I think quarterback versus quarterback, this is a lot closer of a matchup than we think. I think you look at some of the skill position players, you're definitely going to say the Bengals have the better wide receiver trio. But the Browns aren't shabby, right? The Browns have the better running game because Nick Chubb is Nick freaking Chubb. And a lot of people, including me, think he's at least a top 3 running back, if not the best running back in football. So he can make a difference as well. But I'm going to go Bengals, very tight game. I think this is 1-1. Whoever loses this one wins their other matchup. All right, then we're going to go to the Houston Texans versus the Baltimore Ravens. So I think if you're the Texans, you're thinking to yourself, the NFL did us no favors, none whatsoever. We have to play the Baltimore Ravens week 1. Baltimore Ravens always have a good defense. I don't think there's anybody, however you feel about Lamar Jackson, his situation, the wide receivers they brought in, Zay Flowers, and others, you know who they are. No need to go over all the names. It's hard to say that Houston has a real chance to win this game. I think if this game were week 5, week 6, I'd feel better about Houston because they're going to have some time, a new quarterback, rookie, to kind of have some growing pains. So I think Baltimore is going to comfortably win this, but hopefully we'll start to see some of the things that made C.J. Stroud, really in my mind, the best quarterback coming out of the draft. And, Houston will show that they have their guy for the future. It'll take some time for him to, get comfortable with receivers. Running backs are going to be fine for both teams. So I think Baltimore wins this game, but Houston does show us that there's something brewing there. Then we got a 1:00 game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Minnesota Vikings. I always look first at the quarterback matchup. Kirk Cousins versus somebody from Tampa Bay. I really don't care. There's no one at Tampa Bay at the quarterback position that's better than Kirk Cousins. I know who the quarterback is, but you understand what I'm saying. It's just meh. I think the Vikings defensive issues, but Tampa Bay is really going to pay this year for the Tom Brady years. So the guys are burning guys that came and kind of took a little bit less to be there. They're going to have to really take a year or two to get out of that post-star retiring purgatory. Get them a quarterback of the future. I think they'll be able to do it in the draft because I think they're going to be one of the really bad teams this year. I don't know if they'll be top 2 bad, but I think they'll be one of the really bad teams this year. I'm definitely going to go Vikings in this game. Not a blowout, though. I think it'll be close, but I think the Vikings have what it takes to win that game. All right, then we have a funny game of the week pick for me. We've got the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. The reason why I say is I'm not a Desmond Ritter fan, like not at all. Like Desmond Ritter, I just don't see it. I could be completely wrong, but I just don't see it. Before I get to that, Billy V says the Browns he's got the Ravens, so we have those two in common. And he says Baker Mayfield is trash. I'm going with the Vikings. So me and him are aligned on those three picks so far. All right. And I'm going to go. I'm going to. I can't. It's hard to say. Okay, I'm going to go Panthers. I'm going to go Panthers because I do think the better quarterback is in their side. I do also think that the Falcons have a better defense, so they're going to make this a low-scoring game. But the Panthers will be able to move the ball enough to get some field goals. To add on to the touchdown or two, they should be able to score. But I think the Falcons with Ritter, it's not going to be good, especially first couple of weeks. He's got to really show, I think, the fans, the organization, football fans, that he can be that guy, because he had some wins last year, but he really didn't do a lot. We know the Falcons' plan is going to be run, 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 but there's going to be a couple of times where guys are going to get open, and if the Panthers are able to get enough blocking from their line to allow the quarterback time to make those throws, Bryce Young will make those throws, and I think there'll be enough to get a win. But long term, it's going to be bad for the Panthers because I think Young's going to get hit a lot, and wanted to throw the ball away and try to avoid as many hits as possible. My concern with him is and has been size. It's never about talent. It's never about skill because he has those as size. So definitely want him to be able to be successful in the league. I love it when guys come in. They have the hype and they're able to live up to it. Just concerned with injuries with him. And I don't think his upside is that much higher than C.J. Stroud. I do think C.J. Stroud is better. But I still think Bryce Young can be the guy. Just needs to be in the right situation with the offensive line. All right, and then we have the Cardinals and Commanders. I'm going to make this as quick as it can be. If you're playing the Cardinals this year, maybe one or two times not, but if I see Cardinals, whoever the other team is, probably 14 out of 17 times we're going to the other team. Commanders is one of those teams we're going with. So Commanders, Sam Howell gets a nice preseason warm-up as a regular season game to start his career out as a starter. Commanders look better than they probably are. People hop on the Commanders hype train, but when you play the Cardinals, that's what happens. They make you look so much better, especially week one. All right, and then next we have the Jags and the Colts. So this is the other team besides the Cardinals and the Bucks that I have little or no faith in. Anthony Richardson, I don't believe at this time is ready to be a starter in the NFL. I say this time because guys can learn and develop. We've seen it happen with guys, but right now he's a guy that in college didn't make a lot of the reads, didn't make a lot of the plays. So I don't see where that's going to change. Athletically, I think he's a specimen and a half, but actual playing the game, he's going to need some time to develop. This is going to be a tough year for Indianapolis. Most games, again, they're going to be the team I'm bidding against. Whoever they're playing, it's going to be the team I'm going to go against or go with against the Colts. All right, and then we come up to the 49ers and the Steelers. So Billy V says the Panthers receiving core is hurt. Give him the Falcons. He also says he's taking Washington. Which those are fair. Those are fair. So 49ers versus Steelers. I'm going to go 49ers based on what I know so far. I think the Steelers are going to be right there with them. This is one of those games where if the 49ers falter, if Purdy gets exposed a little bit because teams kind of have film and stuff on him now, I think this would be one of those games the Steelers could sneak out. But I'd make this an upset alert, but I wouldn't necessarily make it an upset. Like a game to watch, it's possible. But I still believe San Francisco will win, just, depending on how things fall for some other situations. All right, so we got the Titans and the Saints. So I pondered this one for a while because I think both teams have some goods and some bads. But I'm going to do something a little wild on this one, and I'm going to pick the Titans. I'm going to pick the Titans because I think the Saints, while the best team in the NFC South, don't really have that guy that can handle DeAndre Hopkins, which is going to allow the other wide receivers to be able to eat and face lesser coverages than they did last year. You still got Derrick Henry last time that I checked for this game. So as long as he stays healthy, I think the Titans have the ability to and will win this game. So then we have the Raiders and the Broncos. So I look at this game, I look at Jimmy Garoppolo versus Russell Wilson, right? I mean, there's other things to say. The Raiders have the lesser defense. The Broncos went out and made some moves to shore up positions of need. They brought in Sean Payton, and supposedly he's going to be the guy that can turn Russell Wilson back toward the path he was, or at least help him not be as bad as it was last year by being a suitable NFL head coach. So I'm going to go with the Broncos in this matchup. Raiders, a lot of issues. Y'all need to free Devontae Adams and let him go have a chance to actually do something because he won't be there. All right, and then the next game we have the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. And we're going to move on. All right, so we've got the Rams and the Seahawks. Oh, but one more thing on the Eagles and the Patriots. And we've got the Rams and the Seahawks. I'm going to go Seahawks because I think the Rams just a lot happening. Cooper Kupp's out, and it's going to be difficult for them to really generate, I think, a lot of points. They've lost pieces throughout the years. They sacrificed a lot for a Super Bowl, but they won the Super Bowl, so I'm not mad. But now they're in that kind of rebuilding process. So we got 4 games left here, but just going to hop back to see any other updates if we have any. Doesn't look like anyone else has made any game picks. So we'll keep moving along. Miami Dolphins at the Chargers. So the question that I ask myself is Tua Tagovailoa healthy? The answer to that question as of now is yes. If he can stay upright and healthy, the Dolphins win this game. The Dolphins are a really good team. They're dangerous, and they were undefeated until Tua got hurt. So remember, this is a Dolphins team that did make some additions to become better. Obviously, one of those, Jalen Ramsey, won't be back anytime soon, but they still, I think, have enough to win this game against the Chargers. I think this begins the end of the Chargers that we currently know them, especially on the coaching staff. All right, then we've got the Packers versus the Bears. So when I see this game, I ask myself, Jordan Love, right? Jordan Love, is he going to be the guy that's going to be a better quarterback than the guy the Bears have? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Who has the better quarterback? Fields or Jordan Love? I honestly feel like I want to say Justin Fields. I feel like the line the Bears have is not that good, but it should be improved. The line the Packers have is not that good, and I don't think it really was improved. The Packers are a little inferior at the wide receiver position to the Bears. And I think the Bears are going to be a surprisingly solid team this year. And they started 1-0 by beating the Packers. Last 2 games are what I like to refer to as slobber knockers. For those of you who are not wrestling fans, these are what you call knockdown, drag out, fight type of games. We've got the Dallas Cowboys against the New York Giants. So a lot of people have said, Dallas this, Dallas that. A lot of people, Giants are going to upset, whatever. So I'm going to say very close game, NFC East game. 2 teams that made the playoffs last year. 2 teams I believe both have a great chance of making it this year. But I'm going to give it to the Giants. I think they come out with something to prove, and they find a way. Saquon, Danny Pennies, Jalen Hyatt, some of the guys they added. Defense is solid. They added Isaiah Simmons. I just think they have that. No one really expects us to win. Some people pick us, but no one really expects us to win. It's just for shock value. But I think it's motivation, and I think Danny Pennies with another year in the system is going to show he's Danny Nichols here in the next couple of weeks. It starts this week. So I'm going to go Giants. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong. Dallas wins, but I'm going to go Giants. All right. And then we have Bills versus Jets. Back and forth on this game, back and forth on this game. I think the depth goes for the Jets. I think offensive line, defense goes for the Bills. I think running goes for Jets. But I just see Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, right? The pieces that they have being a little bit better and finding a way to pull out a win against a much improved Jets team. Then more than likely we'll split, but with this first, we'll go into the Bills. They played together longer, most of the pieces, and they're going to be a little bit more comfortable with each other and make plays. But again, half of these games could go the other way because these are picks that are sure to go wrong. You know why they're sure to go wrong? Because I'm making them. But ladies and gentlemen, everyone who has tuned in, everyone who's checked out the show, we're about to come to an end. But before we do, my co-host is here. See if he has a few thoughts on the matchups for next week before we end things.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on?
So hopefully my internet is pretty stable here. So which matchups am I gonna have some thoughts on? I haven't even looked to see what matchups are for next week yet.
Well, this is all the ones for this week. We haven't got it next week yet. Just this week's matchups. We were just discuss. I just kind of went through all the games. So if there's any game you wanted to discuss, feel free to.
Yeah, I mean, I think an interesting one is going to be that last one you just mentioned, right? That the Bills and Jets. It's going to be our first opportunity to see what the Jets are going to look like with Aaron Rodgers. See, what that offense looks like. See if that defense can go up. If they're going to take a step back at all, are they going to stay the same? That's going to be a question mark with them. So a lot of intriguing things there. I think also that Jets offensive line to me is still a question mark. So we're going to see how Aaron Rodgers plays behind that line. I agree with what you said in terms of the Bills are going to win this game if for no other reason that it's the chemistry factor. They're going to be able to come in week one and play like they've played together for years because, oh, yeah, they have. So the big question mark for me with Buffalo, I want to see this year in terms of them be able to take the next step is can they run the football? And this Jets defense is going to give them a very good opportunity to prove that they can do that week one. So it will be interesting to see if they can actually establish that running game because at the end of the day, I don't think the Bills are ever going to go that deep and make a Super Bowl run if they do not find a way to run the football consistently.
Yeah, if you can't run football, you can't do what they want to do. It's like impossible.
Yeah, I think that, and then the Cowboys and the Giants is the other really intriguing game for me. Dallas. I mean, look, we've said it when it comes to the NFC, the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Cowboys, the three most talented rosters. I don't even think it's particularly close for fourth place. So, or between third and fourth, I don't even think it's that close. I think those are the three most talented rosters. But the Cowboys, as we were talking about earlier today, coaching is always going to be a problem there. So even though they have talent, they haven't been able to fully utilize that talent. The Giants, on the other hand, are a less talented team, but Brian Dable got a lot out of them last year. So now that we've had a year to kind of see what Daniel Jones is going to look like in that offense, to kind of see how they're putting the pieces together. Because, yeah, they went out and drafted a bunch of receivers, but I mean, let's be legitimate. No offense to any of those guys right now, but they're improving. We don't know whether we should be concerned about them or not. Is an opposing defense. You don't know if you should even be worried about those guys. So it will be interesting to see what that Giants offense looks like, see if they can take that next step, see if Daniel Jones can take that next step up and show that he deserved that payday he got. And again, Dallas's defense is very good. They're gonna test him. That's not Dallas's problem. Dallas's problem is under center.
Can't really argue with that, man.
Yeah, and don't forget Mike McCarthy's calling the plays now, so that Dallas offense will be interesting to see this year in terms of what changes might get made.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We will see. So yeah, we talked about the I talked about the contract extensions earlier. Talked about the top 25. Went through some of those games. Who I thought would win those games. Of course, talked about Colorado. Some of those fun things that happened last week in college football as well, man. So before we get out of here, do you have any thoughts on any of the top 25 games or any of the big upsets from last week that you'd like to share with our good fam here?
I'm just gonna give two quick thoughts here. The game I'm most looking forward to this weekend, besides watching my own team play, obviously, is Texas and Alabama. Great game last year. I do feel like it shouldn't be as close this year. I mean, even though I think Texas is a pretty good team, I think Bijan Robinson was the difference maker in that game last year. He's obviously in Atlanta now, so I don't know if they're going to get that kind of production out of the running game. And if they don't, I don't know that they're going to get production up from anywhere else. So it might not be as close as last year's game, but nonetheless, that's the game I'm looking forward to just to see if I'm happy, see what's going to happen. Because as you said earlier, these are picks that are sure to go wrong, right? Because we're making them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that one. The only other thing I'm going to say is, Brian Kelly, if you're going to come out and say that you're going to beat the heck out of someone, and there's audio recordings of you saying it, don't try to come out later and say you didn't say that. We all heard you, dude. There's literally an audio recording. We have evidence that you said it. So I don't know who you think you fooling, but it's not anybody over here.
Well, man, since you said that, man, there's one thing I have to say. Hey, Miami of Ohio, you're not the real Miami. You're Red Hawks. You're fake, and that's why you got spanked. Don't come out and poke a bear.
There was a joke going around before y'all's game that said whoever wins gets to call themselves the U, and the other team has to call themselves the other Miami. So Miami, Ohio, I guess you are officially the other Miami.
You
Congratulations.
were before the game. You were after the game. You were during the game. The one time where I can confidently say, acknowledge us.
There's nothing more to say, man. There's nothing more to say.
There is nothing more to say. So, with that, my good people, we're going to end the show for the evening. I appreciate everyone who hopped in, everyone who watched, everyone who comes and watches the replay. Subliminals, let's do this. Make sure you share the show. Make sure you like the show. And also make sure you tell 2 of your friends and 4 of your enemies. Because just because they don't like you doesn't mean they won't like us. And with that being said, we are ending another episode, PlayCallers Sports Talk. Make sure you tune in also if you are available on Fridays at 10 a.m. WDJYFM.com. I finally got it right. Proud of myself. I am mentally patting me on the back. That any last words, Pops?
Hey, I'm gonna give you a pat on the back for that one too, because last time I tried, I butchered it. So great job, man. Great job.
We are out.